Hello everyone, this is Mutated Nuts and today we'll be continuing our beginner friendly Road to SCP video series. Today we'll be looking at another Hack the Box machine, that is Haircut. Haircut is based on Linux and the difficulty is medium, so let's just get started. So first thing what I always do is I run an auto-recon scan. If you guys don't know what auto-recon is, it's an enumeration tool on the target machine. It's gonna do few nmap scans at first, and based on the results over there it's going to do additional scans on them. So if it finds port like 445 open, it's going to do additional scans on it and give us the enumeration results. So 95% of the time it works really great, but sometimes you have to manually enumerate things further. So it's like not always rely on an automated tool. Okay, so I'll be running this tool. This is available on GitHub as well. So I'll be running it as root. So I'll be giving sudo because I'm running the machine as Kali, and I'll be giving Python 3 over here so that I run this autorecon.py file. I'll be giving the target IP address, that is 10.10.10.24. In the case of Haircut, I'll be giving the O switch for output and the directory location where I want to save this entire scan result. So let's just look into it because I already did execute the scan. It takes some time to actually get done. So let's just look into the full TCP nmap scan at first. We see that we have only two ports open, that is port 22 which is open and it is running SSH service. We have port 80 over here which is open, it's running HTTP. So if we see over here, the version over here says like 7.2, probably latest version. And over here we do not have any Apache web server. We have Nginx 1.10.0 web server over here. So obviously first thing I saw something new, right? So I went over here, I looked out for this exploit over here, but I could find some exploit on GitHub, but that was just like mentioning that whether this particular server version is vulnerable to an exploit or no. But it does not work, okay? So whether it is vulnerable to a particular CVID. So it does not work over there because there was no, exploit present where we could achieve remote code execution or something. So that's why I could not go any further on that. So I just left it as it is, and we have port 80 over here which is running HTTP. So let's just look into it. If we see, if we get something interesting, so 24, okay. So it says like we come across an image over here and there's nothing, I guess. So if we look at the image and we do view page source, we just have this bounce JPEG image probably in the root directory, and that's it, nothing else over here. So obviously for next thing what I do is I run a GoBuster scan, and I think the GoBuster scan for this box was already, yeah, it did already run from the AutoRecon tool. Sometimes it does not run for some reason and I do it manually myself, but any which way I prefer doing the GoBuster scan manually. So we'll just see how we do the GoBuster scan manually. But first we got this from the AutoRecon results. So let's just look into this. If we have anything interesting, we have the index.html file over here. So let's just copy that and paste it. It's obviously the same same web page over there. Okay, so we have test.html over here. So let's just look into that. So we come across the same web page over here. If we do view page source, we do not get anything interesting over here. It's just this JPEG file present over there. Okay, so we have something like carry curl, but we do not have any other information present over here. So what we'll do is we'll look into another directory. So we look at uploads and it says forbidden, you do not have access probably, and we obviously get the server web server version over here as well. Okay, so we do not get anything over here. This was the only thing we had. So that's why I had spent some time on this engine web server. So I initially thought, when I was doing the box for the first time, I initially thought that probably there's some exploit for this, but there was no public exploit available for this. So that's why I thought, okay, next thing is obviously try to run a Smalltxt scan or the medium txt. So let's just do that in GoBuster. So in order to run GoBuster, I don't think it comes pre-installed with Kali, so you can get it from GitHub. So we'll run GoBuster over here, and we'll be giving the directory mode, that is dir. We'll be giving you, before that, okay, obviously we need our Smalltxt. So I think this word list is used. I think there is one small word list which was not small. I think the common word list is used with AutoRecon. If we check the autorecon.py, the AutoRecon folder directory has a particular list over there which word list it uses, but I think it's a very small kind of a word list, so I don't think all the results would be coming up over there. So that's why we'll be using the Smalltxt now, which consists like around 8,000 directory words. Okay, so we have okay, so let's just look into Smalltxt now. And we have the Smalltxt word list present over here, GoBuster word list, directory list 2.3 Smalltxt. Not this one, okay? This is the one which I'm speaking about. So let's just do that and probably cat it. If you guys don't know what it is, it's like a huge list, like around 8,000 words present over here. Okay, I know 8,000, and there's common txt as well, which I always run at first, but I did not. Obviously, I think I did run it, but I did not get anything over there. So let's just look into this Smalltxt now. So what we'll do is we'll be running GoBuster. If you guys don't know what GoBuster is, I know most of you guys may be aware. So as we saw earlier, we got the results right over here. So in short, it's gonna check for all these directories over here, like FIDE, Radio 2, RSCH, and all these things. And it's gonna check in the web on the web server. It's gonna check for these directories. So based on the response from the server, it's gonna analyze that, and it's going to give you the output saying that, hey, you know what, out of all those 4,000 word list, these were the only 4 directories or files which were found on the server. Okay, so what we'll do next is we have GoBuster over here. We'll be running by giving the directory mode. We'll be giving the use switch over here, and we'll be giving HTTP and also 10.10.14, sorry, 10. The IP address 24, and also we'll be giving the word list, that is Smalltxt, and we'll be giving extensions as well. So that is probably we can enter, since we already since we saw that there are multiple HTML files, so let's just include that as well, and the ones which are common for Linux boxes. Okay, so probably like py, HTML, and we can enter sh, CGI, TXT, PHP, as well as PL. Okay, so we can enter these extensions. So in short, what it's going to do is, if we pick up one word list, okay, over here, say WebVise. So it's going to check for WebVise first. Okay, GoBuster will check for WebVise, and then later on it will check for all the extensions one by one. So like py, then PHP, sh, txt, and based on the response from the server, obviously it's going to give you that output. So this is what we'll run, and we can give the O switch for output. That is probably you can enter like something like GoBuster, small extension scan, and you can enter anything over here. The output does not matter. You can enter anything, and also we can give the threads. Probably you can enter 40, and you can enter 100 as well. I think for this box I'd enter 100 so that it gets faster. And yeah, so the default is 10, I guess. So if you run this, if you see, we have 10 threads over here, so that means it's going to run with 10 threads, if multi-threading, right? So if we do t is equal to 40, so it's going to run with 40 threads, so almost like 4 times faster. Okay, so that's why I did it with 100. So if you guys want, you all can do it with 100, I guess, or more than that, but 40 is a safe bet, I guess. Okay, so because it will consume a lot of resources probably, so that's why. So 40 is fine, but it may take some time, I guess, to completely execute the entire list. So I did already run the scan result, okay, and let's just look into it and we'll see if we get something interesting. So if we see the Smalltxt, we have these files which were present earlier as well, right? Index HTML test. We have another one which says here HTML over here. So let's just look into that as well. So we have another image over here present, right? So what we'll do is we'll just skip into the other page, and it says over here we have some exposed.php page. Okay, so let's just look into that. Okay, so we come across some search bar over here, and it says enter the hairdresser's location you would like to check, example so and so. So an example is giving let's just do go for now. Let's just see what it does, right? It's already an example present over there. So it says like we have received some site, and this is the same carry curl page which we saw earlier, right? Test.html. Because this is localhost, and it's just checking for this test.html file which we saw earlier as well. So that is 10.10.10.24 and test.html, same file, right? And we see something over here, it says total received and average speed, time, something like that. Okay, I'm not sure that what this is as of now, so let's just see into it. So we have this search page over here, we have localhost over here which is like HTTP. What we can do is we can check for probably if we can add our IP address over here, and we see if this thing is coming to our server, any connection request is coming to our server. So what we'll do is let's just test that quickly using Python 3 HTTP server. So we'll be using the M switch for module. We'll be giving HTTP server, that's the module name, and we'll be giving the port number, that is 8000. You can give any port, I guess, non-standard port, but 8000 is good to be on safer side. And even if you don't give this 8000 port and you just run this entire command, I think it runs on port 8000. So let's just let it be for now, and let's just try to add a file probably over here in our. So let's just try to check for this file and see if this file gets called over there, the GoBuster Smalltxt. This is the file which I just created from that scan in the workplace. So let's just try that. Probably enter our IP address, that is 14.17, and give the port number over. Don't forget the port number, that is 8000, and you can give the file name, that is GoBuster small extension. Okay, we'll do go, and it says requesting site status 200, which looks like most likely it got, yeah, so we have a request over here. So obviously it's possible, like RFI is present over here. Okay, remote file inclusion. So we have local file inclusion over here as well. So what we'll try to do is we'll just try and check out another things present over here, that is the exposed PHP file itself. You can just probably check for that, and it says like it just loads up over here, nothing much present. HTTP browser, we do not get anything over here. So what we'll do is we'll just refresh this page. Like I don't want this thing over here. Okay, my bad. Just to go. Okay, so what we'll try to do is we have something like an LFI, right? So what we'll just check for etc password, because we have a search bar and we have like HTTP, right? So whenever LFI happens in the browser, probably just consider something like this, and we have some page ID, and if we do LFI, probably we can add some page over here like HTTP, and it's adding a page, right? So if you want to check for some file in the local system, so you can just enter file and probably etc and password, something like that. So this was seen, I guess, in that XML exploit as well, multiple places. If you want a file, okay, so this is where this is the command you have to give, file and these forward slashes too, and then etc password. So let's just check for that if this is available. So if we see, we get the etc password file over here. So we do view page source and we get multiple users obviously over here. You can take that and copy it in the cherry tree, but let's just leave this for now. So that means we have we have local file inclusion present over there. We get all the information from the etc password. So what we'll do is, next step, we can probably just check for the actual working directory, right? The page where this the directory where this web server is hosted. Why? Because we can probably check for the source code of this exposed PHP file and try to do different kind of things. So even if we check this HTTP local test HTML, right? If we do go, we come across this page. So obviously first thing is we can just check for semicolon and just try to add who am I over here. That means we are removing one command. That means we are terminating one command by this semicolon, and we are adding another command which is who am I. So let's just do that, and it says like this thing is not a good thing to put in URL. So probably you can try multiple things, like you can try to pipe it, I guess, and if you do go, it says the same thing. So we can try and as well, who am I, and it says that this thing is not a good thing to put in URL. So in short, it's gonna limit you from putting multiple things. I think there's a blacklisting method which is written. So what we'll do is we have the password file, right? We have local file inclusion. So now since we have local file inclusion, what we'll try to do is we'll try to get the configuration file details, okay, from this particular web server over here, which is Nginx. So let's just look into that and we'll see if we get some additional details. So in short, what we'll try to do is we have this expose.php page, right? We'll try to load this PHP page. So before that, we need to know the location of the directory, right? The web root directory. So let's just try to find that, and we can probably put it up as Nginx configuration file location. So we have like multiple file location present over here. It says the configuration file nginx.conf is placed in either of these directories over here. So let's just look into it. User, so obviously we'll enter file, conf, probably enter nginx, conf, because it was mentioned conf over here, right? So let's just do that. And it says like could not open this particular file. Okay, probably just enter, remove one / since there are like I guess 4. And it says could not open again. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to open this particular nginx file. Okay, so let's just go back, remove this entire and try to paste it. Okay, with the / and we come across a configuration file over here. So let's just do view page source to get some additional info. And it says like you have the access log present over here, var log nginx access log. So let's look into that as well if you find something interesting, right? So we have like a huge list of access log. So we see that we have the access logs present over here, right? So probably if we require, maybe somehow later on we can try for log poisoning, but let's just go into it, okay, over here, and we'll just check for additional information present, right? So over here we do not get any other information present, like we just get the access log information and we do not get the actual information where the application is hosted, right? So what we'll try to do is we'll try to check out for more configuration files, and it says over here we have like, okay, how to configure nginx, and we get like, if we scroll down over here we see multiple configuration files. So let's just look into that. So if you see over here, it says like you'll find a configuration file present over here. So let's just look into these things over here. So let's just copy it and paste it again. Give the file and paste this thing, default. Okay, that's it. And we have another configuration file. It loads, and if we see over here, it says the root directory is var www.html. So obviously this was my first guess, because usually the Linux boxes, the web application directory is this itself. But just to be safe, if we do not know, some boxes tricky, right, and it's not present over here, the root directory, so probably we can get some configuration file present and we can understand this particular root directory location. Okay, so let's just look into this. We'll do copy, we'll enter file again, var expose.php. So now root directory is where our web server is hosted, right? So this is the root directory, like this file is present in our root directory, that is this var html www.html. So it's present over here. So most likely, obviously, this file is going to be over here. So this is where the root file is. So let's just do go, and we come across requesting site something, and it loads up the file again. When we saw earlier, right, it loaded the file. Same way we got another search bar over here. But the thing is, we got some additional data present over here. So let's just do view page source. I'm doing view page source to look into it, a bit better. So if we have this particular thing, and if we see, it says like it's not a good thing to put in the URL. We are getting the error, right? So probably it says like these things are disallowed. So we cannot enter any of these things, okay? So that's why it's saying that it is not allowed. So in short, if we see over here, it says shell execute, okay? So that means it's going to execute some command, OS command, and that is using curl. We saw the error earlier as well, right? It was using curl, but we obviously needed to find and see how this particular thing is going to work. So we are going to give the use URL. So probably the URL whichever we enter over here, so that's going to come out over here. So in short, we have this curl, we have this URL. So what we'll try to do is we can try to get a a PHP page, reverse PHP. So let's just try to do that, reverse PHP shell. So let's just check out Pentest monkey reverse PHP shell, and I guess yeah, so this is the shell which you are looking for on GitHub. So I already have it in my system, so let's just go and look into it. So obviously we'll just change the port number and the IP address, that is 14.17, and that is my attack machine's IP address, and port 4444. So this is where I want to listen at. So obviously first thing I'll do is I'll just keep this open and I'll start another netcat listener over here, NC NVLP 4444. NC is netcat, obviously if you guys don't know, it's like a connection tool between attack machine and the target machine. So if we'll just wait and listen for a connection over here, so that's why we'll be giving this L over here, L switch, that is listening. V is for verbose, N is for accept numeric values only, and P is for port number, that is 4444. Okay, so what we'll do is we have this thing running over here, and let's just go over here, and obviously we just edited our reverse PHP file, right? So this is the attack machine's IP address, that is my Kali machine, and the port number as well where I want to listen, where I'm listening actually. So let's just close these. You can get it from GitHub, this reverse PHP page. So what I did was, first obviously we are hosting that PHP page over here, right? Sorry, not PHP, but Python HTTP server over here, right? So what we'll try to do is we'll just try and get that file to see what happens. Don't forget to enter the port number, that is 8000, and we'll get that reverse PHP file, and let's do go, and it says like okay, my bad, I think reverse PHP. Okay, so I'm hosting that PHP server in the workplace directory. So let's just close that, go to exploit, and start that PHP server again. Okay, let's close this and start it again, obviously. So we have this thing over here. We'll just load this reverse PHP page. We have the Python 3 HTTP server listening. Sorry, it's waiting. Yeah, it's up and running. And if we see over here, it says we get this particular information. Let's do view page source. And it says we got the entire PHP web shell, sorry, reverse shell, not web shell. But for some reason it did not execute, it looks like, because we do not get a shell over here in NC and VLP. So in short, it looks like it does not execute this code properly over here. So it does not execute it as a PHP page because it's present inside this expose.php page probably. So what we'll try to do is we'll just try to save this file into some directory which we can access later. Okay. So we'll just try to save it over here itself in the root directory. So what we'll do is we just have this reverse PHP. Now first thing, we have to check how we can actually use curl and save the output. Curl save to file. So if we see over here, we can save the result of the curl command to a file by using the O switch or the capital O switch. Okay. So let's just do that. So in short, how we use wget, right? So if we check over here, we use wget and the IP address, or probably the HTTP link, probably, and like something like 10.10.10, and the port number 8000, and the file like exploit file, something like that, right? So that means, and then later on we give the O switch over here to output it to a directory, probably like tmp, and save it as exploit code, something like that. So that's how this curl also is working over here. So what we'll try to do is we have HTTP, we are getting the file from this, that is the attack machine's IP address and the port where the the Python HTTP server is running, and we have reverse PHP file. So let's just enter the small o, and we'll enter the path location where we want to save the file as. So let's just save it in this particular root directory first and see if it works. So let's just do reverse PHP, my bad. And it says failed writing body. For some reason it failed, so it says permission denied. So probably it looks like we do not have write permission in this root directory over here. So what we'll do next is, so obviously after some thinking, you get to know that there is an uploads directory present in the root directory, right? So if we check over here, I'll just remove this thing. we did not have permission over it. It says forbidden because I don't think it gives us directory listing. But directory listing is disabled probably. So, but what we can do is we'll just try to save in the uploads directory over here. Since we already have some directory, right, which is different from the root directory, let's just try to save it over there and see if we can actually get this file saved. Now, important thing is, I know this is not something advanced, this is like a small amateur thing, that please do not enter a forward slash over here because uploads directory does not exist in the root directory. If you add this forward slash, it means check it from the root directory, like how the root folder is present, or the user USR, and also the dev directory, okay, or etc directory. So all these directories are present over there. So don't enter this, just remove this so that it will be saved in that uploads folder and reverse PHP. Okay, so let's just try that. And it says, and it looks like the file was saved. Okay, we do not get any error. So what we'll try to do is, we have this thing over here, and yeah, so let's just start our netcat listener for now. Since we only saved the file, we did not execute it. Let's just run this, and let's just try to look at our reverse PHP file. Okay, let's just load that. It takes some time to load. And if we see over here, we have a shell, we do who am I, we are over here as www data, and we can go to a home directory probably to get a user flag, and we have your user Maria. So let's just go to desktop, LSLA. We have our user txt file over here, and obviously we can very well read it because we belong to the others category and everybody can read it in short. Okay, so next thing is another thing, probably if you do not find this expose PHP or something, let's just try to use this total receive, total average speed and all this thing on Google to see if we get something. And it says first thing is curl, like, okay, everywhere it's curl, like, so there also we can get a hint that probably we are using curl and this is the output. And over here as well, if we see, we have this curl thing. So if we do not get any other way of getting that information of curl, we see this output over here, so we can use that as well. But I just wanted to show you all the possible ways probably we can get the direct accurate information. Okay, fine. So we have user access over here. We can keep this Python page running over there, and what we'll do is, first thing, we saw a user flag, we can do uname a, and we get the OS information over here. We get a 64-bit OS, and also so we get the 64-bit OS present over here, and also we get the time when the OS was installed, that is April 27 and UTC this particular year, 2017. Okay, so we have this information present. And why is this information useful? Because sometimes if we see, we see our user txt flag, right? So probably the OS was installed around this time, and if we see, the user txt flag was like May 16. So like it took around 16-17 days probably to make this box, I guess. I'm not sure, but I'm just saying. So in short, this file was updated then. So that means all these files were updated after the box was created. So probably something to look at. Okay, so if we go back to the root directory, and if we do lsla over here, okay, so there are some files obviously before April 2017 as well, like these files over here. So probably these are present from the OS itself, so that's why it's not very interesting, but yeah, we can obviously look into it if we have something present. Okay, so we cannot, what we'll do is, we check for sudo l as well. It says sudo l not present over here, so probably we cannot use sudo l. So next thing is, I look at LinPeas and linenum over here. So let's just look into that. So we have this Python 3 thing running over here. So let's just locate linenum file. linenum.sh is available on GitHub as well. So I already have it in my system. So I'm just copying it over here into the exploit directory, as well as I'll be locating LinPeas. So usually I just run linenum, and most of the times I get the output over there. But sometimes I run LinPeas as well. So we have copied both of the files present over here, linenum and linsh. So let's just try to wget. I guess wget is present. Yes, we do have wget present over here. Let's just maximize this. So we'll go to cd temp directory first. Good thing to work in cd temp or dev shm. So we'll go to cd temp. We'll be just using wget. If you guys don't know what wget is, we just saw like we can get a file. So since we are hosting HTTP server over here, we can give the attack machine's IP address and the port number where that server is running and the file that is linenum.sh. So we see the file has gotten downloaded to our target machine. This below thing is a target machine, so if you all get confused. Okay, so another thing is we can do wget 10, my bad, 14.17, port number 8000 and LinPeas. So we add both over here. Okay, it takes some time for LinPeas. Okay, now we'll just chmod it. Since this is a target machine, we'll just chmod 777. That is read, write, execute for all three groups, that is user, groups and others. And we'll be giving for LinPeas, sorry, linenum first. Because if you don't chmod it, it will not have execute permissions. So if you see over here, we have done chmod for linenum, but if you see over here, we have only read write permissions over here. We do not have execute, even for the first user, that is www data. So let's just do that chmod, or you can just leave it as c7. And since we do not have execute, so we can probably leave it as 766 and linpeas.sh. So now if we check lsla, we'll see that only the first user get executes permission and others don't get, because 4 is for write and 2, sorry, my bad, 4 is for read and 2 is for write and 1 is for execute. So this thing should be like, in your muscle memory. You should never forget these things about permissions. So yeah, so we have these two files present over here. Let's just try to execute it. Give the / linenum.sh. Take some time to run. So obviously when I'm doing the box for the first time, I run linenum scan and linpeas, and also I check for any cron jobs using pspy, multiple things, okay, and I manually check the directories and folders as well. Like I check it, it takes some time. I manually check each and everything. I try to find out if there is something present over there. It's not that I run some scan, I see something, or I'm like, oh, this is the exploit. So it's like it takes some time to actually look into it, understand it. Probably there'll be a few rabbit holes as well, but then yeah, eventually we'll probably come to that exploit, and sometimes it does not work also, the exploit at the first time. So it looks like, oh, maybe this was patched or something, but that is actually the exploit and we have to actually change few things. So let's just look into the linenum scan. We obviously do not find anything useful on top. We can probably take this distribution release and try to search exploit against it and to see if we have any exploits over there. So just scroll down. So if you check the SUID files over here, okay, so we have multiple files present over here. We have this ping, we have SU mount, and if you see, as I mentioned earlier, the box was installed somewhere around April 2017, okay. So we have this thing which is older. Probably it came with the OS install, like pre-install. All these files probably look older. Then we have some few things over here. Obviously May 4th present over here. And also we have something which looks like May 19, 2017, and that is user bin screens. There's some screen file present. And if you guys don't know about what SUID is, so if we see over here in this first file, so we have read, write and S. We do not have an X over here. So in short, we belong to this category. We can execute this file. We cannot write it. We can execute it. So since this SUID is present over here, the file owner, that is root, since it is present over here in the first group, that is the user group, belongs to root, right? So that means whenever we run this file, it will run as root over here, okay, because this S is present over here. So if it was www data over here, so when we run this file, it will run as www data because this S is present. So probably you can check out for SUID files more. But yeah, so this was how it works. So in short, if we have some exploit file over here. So if you run that, it will run as root user because this S over there. Okay, so we have the screen 4.5.0. So what we'll do is we'll try to look into this later, but first we'll run linenum scan as well, and let's just do linenum, sorry, not linenum, LinPeas, my bad. So let's just do LinPeas, and almost sometimes you get additional information in LinPeas or linenum, so it's better to run both of it. Do not rely on one, just run both of it. This is what I do as well. I just run both and see if I get some useful information. So let's just look into it quickly. If we see something interesting, do not have anything. And over here, if you see it, it highlights few things for you. It's like red, yellow, 99% privilege escalation vector, red. You must take a look into it. Like probably it's something interesting, but it's not that you should always rely on that. And if you do not see anything red, and that's not the path. Okay, so it's not that. It's just gonna help you in some way, but it does not help you fully. So let's just scroll down and see if we get something useful. And if you check the SUID file over here, this thing is highlighted, and this thing is highlighted in red, and that too there's a highlight, sorry, the font is red and the highlight is yellow. That means 99% this is a privilege escalation vector. Okay, so we saw that in LinPeas as well. And one small thing on, sorry, linenum, my bad, I'm getting confused with these two things. So we saw it in linenum as well. So over here there's one disadvantage: we do not get the date and the permissions and everything over here for some reason. So it's not present over here. So that is present in linenum. That's why I prefer linenum sometimes. Okay, so we can just look into the screen. Okay, let's just do search exploit against it. Screen, search exploit screen. Okay, search exploit screen, and we have this GNU Screen, and we have 4.5.0 local privilege escalation over here. So we have these two scripts over here. One is the POC, and the POC actually is like the steps, I guess. So let's just look into it first. So exploit X, and these are like few steps what we can do. Okay, so we can try to do this way. But if you look at the SH exploit, the first one, so this is probably the entire script which is present. So we'll do search exploit, do X, sorry, we can do M directly. Let's just copy it into our current working directory. M switches for mirror, so we copy it into our current working directory, that is this exploit. And if we have this particular SH file over here, if we see that probably it's trying to create some file sorry, it's trying to create some file at first, that is this libax.c in the temp directory, and then later on it's trying to compile it using GCC. We have seen probably GCC compilers in the previous videos, and then later on it's trying to remove that file, then it's trying to compile this file again, not this file but some other file is trying to create again, sorry. It's trying to create some root shell.c file. These are the C commands, and if you guys don't know, this hash include. So it's trying to create that over here, and then it's going to compile this file, then it's going to remove that root shell.c because it got compiled into this root shell file. And then there are a few things over here. It's going to do umask, screen, echo. It's going to execute something. It says triggering. In the end, it's going to call the root shell after calling the screen over here. Okay, so in short, this looks good. But if we see, if we try to, let's just try to make a copy of this first. Okay, let's just rename it to exploit. I just keep the original copy because sometimes it's better to look into it because I make changes, so sometimes better to look into this file rather than getting it again from search exploit. So we have this exploit sh. Let's just try to use wget. Let's just go to the temp directory first, use wget 10.10.14.17 8000 and sorry, exploit sh, and let's just chmod it 766 to exploit.sh, or we can give 777 as well. But so we have the exploit.sh file over here. So in order to run it, obviously here the environment is mentioned as bin bash, so let's run it as bin bash. But I just want to show you the reason why I'm running this is I'll just show you what happens. Exploit.sh. It says over here something and wanted an end of file, some error it gives over here, right? So what we'll try to do over here is it has some white space characters. So let's just remove that using -2 Unix. Use that tool to remove white space characters, and we'll do exploit dot -2 Unix is present in Kali machine itself, so you can use that. That's a tool. Exploit.sh. We have this converted. If we check that side by side, this is the exploit. Okay, and this is the other one. So if we see, both the files are completely identical, and we got an error somewhere around here, right? If you see over here, it looks identical. No difference to me, but obviously there are like some white space characters, some magic characters behind, which gives us the error. So what we'll do is we'll just have this file now. So let's just remove this file first. We can just remove it or overwrite it using wget. The new file which we'll get now, because we have saved it, right? We used -2 Unix and we have saved it to a new file. So we just, not new file, but same file, it got modified. Remove the white space characters using -2 Unix. Okay, so let's just do this. We'll be doing exploit.sh. We'll be giving the output as exploit2.sh. Okay. Did I enter everything right? Did get a request for this. Yes. I did enter SLA. We do have exploit. Oh, my bad. I gave the small o, we had to give the capital O. O exploit2.sh. Yeah. Okay, so we have this file present over here. Now what we'll do is we'll just try to chmod it. We can give 777 as well. We can give exploit2.sh. We'll run it as bash exploit2.sh. So in short, we get error over here, and it will probably be like, hey, maybe this application was patched or something is patched in this box, so we cannot run this. But if you see, it says GCC error trying to exec CC1, something like that. No such file or directory. So over here as well, it's trying to do the same thing. So if you see GCC, let's just look into the code over here. Okay. So we have the, okay, let's just close this. What is the exploit? Just close these things, we do not require it. Go to exploit.sh, maximize it. Let's look for GCC first. Where is GCC present? We have GCC over here, and it's gonna try to create something over here. I'm just trying to create some cat file first, and just trying to actually compile this entire file, and this is where we are coming across this error over here. Error trying to execute, no such file or directory. Probably there's some function over here which is not present in the attack machine box. So what I did was, obviously I tried to play around a bit with it, and I tried to first create this particular libx file, then I tried to create this particular root shell file. Then I tried to run this exploit, obviously, but then I could not do that because somehow it gave the same error again. So what we'll try to do is, obviously this thing is like, you just read and see what error you get. So we'll just use this. We'll create a new file, because if we see, look into this code, it's going to create a new file using this function. This entire function over here, it's creating a new file that is a C file, this end of field, right? Ignore this because this is the start of the file, this is the end, that's why it's end of field. Okay, so it's going to create a new file that is libx in the tmp directory. But what we can do is, we just don't require this anymore, but we just create this new file though, libx.c, create document, libx.c, open it, and we'll just try to paste this thing over here. Paste it over here. Obviously do not enter this thing, because that's not a C command. That's actually, do not do that please. That's actually creating a file. That's the bash command over there. So do not enter this. This will be an error, because that's a bash command, which, since we are running this bash script, it will create a file. But now we are already doing it manually, right? So we have created this file over here. So we'll just enter files created so that we remember what we have created and what we need to use. We have created libx.c. Okay, we created libx.c over here. We'll just close this for now, or probably we can look into this further. So over here we do not require this thing anymore. Okay, so we'll just try to create another copy of exploit sh, naming exploit manual sh. So just open this up. Let's just close that because we'll probably modify this exploit manual. Okay, so okay, close this. So since we already copied that entire command in libx.c, these commands over here, so let's just take this. We do not require this anymore since we are manually doing it, so let's just delete it from our page over here. Close this. We have GCC and these things present. So now what we'll do is, next step, we'll try and compile this in our box itself, like our Linux machine itself. Okay, so we do not require this tmp libx. Okay, so we need to actually have our particular location present. That is, since libxc file is already present in this exploit directory over here, exploit directory, libxc is present, so we do not have to enter the entire path, and we are already in this current working directory, that is exploit. So remove this as well. You'll come out with an error, so leave these switches as it is. I did not change anything, I just gave the O. In short, it's going to compile this libx.c along with these switches over here, okay, and it's going to give the output to libx.so. It's going to create this libx.so file. Let's just hit enter. It gives us some warning, not an error, so we can just ignore that because probably we are using chmod, which is like a risky method to be present over there. So it just gives us a warning, and if we see, we have a libx.so file present over here. So files required is obviously libx.so, that is present and it's created as well, so we can mention over here. Okay, and later on, let's just close this. We remove this GCC as well, close it, delete it. Then this, because we already compiled it, right, so we do not require that. So we have this rm-f, that f switch, remove this libx c file. Since we are already creating this libx file over here and the c and the so file is present, we do not require this as well. It's just removing that file. Let's just remove that as well. Leave the echo, it looks better to see if the script executed successfully. Now what we come across is, it's creating another file that is rootshell.c. Okay, so let's just create another document over here, rootshell.c. Okay, we have this document, open it up, and let's just copy this thing. Again, do not add this line and this line over here because we are adding the C. So let's just remove this entire thing, because since we're already manually creating, so we'll remove the cat, this entire path, and this thing as well. Remove that. Okay, so we did remove that. Now what is the next step is you have to compile it. So if, let's just try to compile it again. Take this, sorry, and remove this TMP again, because root shell is already present in the exploit directory as well. I know many of you guys may be aware, but yeah, sometimes people make mistakes. So again, we get few warnings over here, and let's just ignore this because these are like some risky, commands, set UID. Okay, so we have this thing done. Remove it. We have remove this thing because root shell we already executing the command, so remove that as well. I know you guys may be wondering, if you removed everything in the command, there are hardly few commands, let's just enter it manually. But just for the, let's just, this exploit is present, right? Let's just do it that way and see if we get something. So it says seed, it's gonna, change directory to the etc folder. It's gonna use umask over here, 000, and it's gonna use the screen with couple of switches, and I think 3 switches, okay? And it's gonna use this libx tmp file. So in short, obviously, since it was mentioning tmp libx and tmp root shell, let's just try to save obviously these 2 files, that is the root shell and the libx so, into the tmp folder in our target machine. So let's just do pwd, we are in the tmp directory, we need to save it over here. Okay, another thing is before that exploit did not work properly, right? So we keep getting this error in all the commands we execute. So let's just ignore that. And so we have this thing, and in short, it's going to do screen ls, and later on it's going to run the tmp root shell. So if we see in the root shell, we'll just look at the root shell, see, it's like set uid, set gid, is going to set the uid to 0, that is root, group 0, that is root again, and all these things, okay, set euid, set eugid, and then later on it's going to create the bin sh. We can even enter bash over here, but just leave it as it is as of now. And so now what we have is we required files root shell as well, that is present. We created these files, that is root shell.c and root shell. So another file what is required in our attack machine box, that is the exploit manual.sh in order to run this entire exploit. Okay, so obviously let's just transfer it one by one. We'll get the notification over here. We'll just use wget. There is wget. We have it over here. Let's just copy it, and we'll be using the first file, obviously that exploit itself, exploit.manual.sh. We got that file, 200 request. Okay, then we'll be using wget. Then we'll be using the root shell, only the root shell, not the C file. We do not require the C file. If you check out the earlier exploit, it's gonna run this particular libx so and the root shell file, not the C, because we already compiled the C and they have already removed this libx.c file and also the root shell.c. So we do not require that. We require the compiled file. Okay, so make sure you all get the compiled file. Root shell, hit enter, then use wget again, then use libx not c so. So that's done. So now we have these files present over there. Let's just use chmod and 777 to give permission for all, so that the script actually, if we know that permission were not an issue if the script does not run. Okay, so we have this libx.c is the earlier one which was created, I guess. So let's just leave that as it is. Probably can delete it, not require it. Libx c. Oops. Okay. Done. Then we have, I'm not sure why libx c, I think because of that exploit is going on generating. But yeah, I'll leave it as it is. Let's just focus on libx.so. We have the root shell, we have the exploit manual sh. Let's just chmod it, chmod 777, done. And then later on we have the other one, that is root shell, chmod 777, root shell, and chmod 777 libx.so. Okay, we have all this thing done, and now what we'll try to do is we'll try to run bash exploit.manual.sh. It says few things run over here. Okay, ignore this thing, actually, I guess we did run it over here. Okay, because this error was coming like every now and then, because after we did run the exploit and it did not compile, the first error which we saw, right? So it says first we create our shell. Obviously these are the echo things. It says done, triggering, done, no socks. We get something over here. Obviously we have another line. If we do who am I, we are over here as root. So we do id, we do go to cd root, we get a root flag over here. If you do who am I, id and if config. Okay, so we are as root over here, and we are in this machine, target machine, that is haircut, and we get a root flag. So this was the box. I know it was a bit tricky, but I guess if you look at the errors and look at the errors in the web browser, try to find that LFI, try to get that exposed PHP file, see curl is present, few things are blacklisted, and once we come in the box, we see that we had that screen thing. LinPeas helped us, okay, with that highlight. And also we see for latest files or binaries which were updated, right? So we do that. See, we see over here May 16, 2017. Okay. So this was the box, and if you guys liked the video, give a thumbs up and do subscribe for more upcoming videos. Thank you.